everybody. So today I had counseling, and in the midst of counseling, I kind of was talking about where I'm at currently and the situations currently. And in my reflection, it kind of made me really think about Kayla a lot more and her role and how she's operated during this time. So, something that I wanted to ask you after kind of going through counseling was, how are you able to handle this situation with so much grace? Like, how are you able to move so nonchalantly, I guess, and kind of just like, all right, this is what it is. Like, this is how we're gonna move, or this is where we're at. Like, boom, let's get to it, or this is where we're at now.
Um, he brought this up to me not too long ago, and I was like, oh, maybe this would be a great conversation to record. But like I said, when you initially asked me, I feel like, what's the alternative? Like, what do I gain by having an attitude? What do I gain by trying to constantly remind you of your mistakes, or this is why we're in this situation? Like, how does that get us closer to being in a better space with one another, or being in a better space in general?
I mean, I guess for me, the immediate response is kind of like, you could have left. Like, you could have been cool. You could have, you know, put me on support, or anything like that. Like, you could have just been cool, or just realize or felt like, hey, just value wise, like, this ain't it. I feel like it's more out there for me. And I'm not saying none of that isn't true, but I think for me, I'm just like, what is it that really kept you rooted? And I feel like we kind of touched on this a little bit, but my counselor had just was like, hey, I see how much admiration, I see how much respect, how much love you have for your wife, and like how you think about your family. And he just like, you might need to tap into that, like, low key. Like, you might need to see like where she draws that strength or that courage from, to kind of be um willing to be that supportive of a partner, or really show that strength, or really walk side by side with you. And I had to really take a step back and really just like, dang, like, now that you say it, like, I knew that. Like, I think about myself, and I'm kind of like, I've told you this before, like, if I was you, and I'm appreciative. I'm thankful that you're here, but I guess realistically, I know the reality is you don't have to be. And while I'm thankful for that, I guess it does bring in the question, like, where do you draw that strength from? Where do you get that courage? How do you? I have my own shame, my own embarrassment that I carry. How do you walk alongside that and support me in that season?
I think initially, like, I definitely like was embarrassed, like, dang, I'm trying to build my little coaching brand, and the way that you're living life doesn't really align with what I'm telling people to do,
Yeah,
and it doesn't really align with the lifestyle that I'm trying to live as a woman of character. But at the same time, I had to like take a step back, like, that's corny. Like, what you look like being more invested in what other people think versus being invested in your family and in your husband.
mm,
And that's something I had to check myself on. Like, am I going to let other people potentially judging our situation stop me from being who and what I feel like I've been called to be to this family?
mm,
And I also feel like, if I ever made a mistake, or if I ever dropped the ball, I don't think you would like judge me, or I don't think that you would leave me as much as you like, saying like, oh yeah, I would have left or whatever. I don't think you would do that. But also, something that I've had to learn throughout our relationship is like, your shortcomings aren't about me. The only time
that's
I've
true.
ever
Yeah,
like desired to leave you was when I felt like he's not respecting me. He doesn't love me. He isn't willing to sacrifice for me. But once I realized, like, these are his shortcomings, like, these are his flaws,
that's true.
this is where he is lacking character wise or integrity wise, and that has nothing to do with me.
Mm,
And once I could kind of look at your decision making objectively and realize he's just immature in these areas, or he hasn't submitted to God in these areas, it was easier for me to kind of, like I said, look at things objectively. Like, I could make this about me, or I could show him grace the same way that people have probably shown me grace before I got to where I'm at right now.
yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I feel like it's definitely points where we've had to have those conversations, and like you said, when I'm in the midst of a shortcoming, or you kind of are getting exposed to a little bit of where I'm at in my mental and emotional state and how I process. I think I was even in the midst of that, being able to say like, hey, this really ain't about you, although it impacts you.
Yeah.
By way of you being my wife and us being in a relationship together, it's not truly about you. It's not truly me wanting to work against you or operate against the household. It's like these are areas that I'm faltering in, or that I need to challenge myself in, and I haven't risen to that occasion just yet. You know what I mean? So it definitely made me just really reflect back, and again, like I can never say how thankful I am. You know, I think even in the midst of the season that we're in, I'm so appreciative to have you by my side and the way you support me. And I think as we're starting to get those little wins, as we're starting to dig a little bit deeper, as I'm starting to come into my own in manhood and fatherhood and all the above, I think we're starting to hit these strides now, and it's all kind of starting to come together. And I think it really took me getting beyond myself, getting, feeling safe with us, and being able to challenge myself by way of counseling, by way of my relationship with God, and starting to really develop those muscles and work those muscles in. So,
yeah,
again, I always have to just commend you and thank you. And I really, like my counselor had mentioned the fact, like, it's like, hey, it's something to learn there. Like she might could teach you something. And outside of that, you definitely taught me many things over the years. But I just think really seeing you've been a real example of what a partner is.
Oh, that was nice.
At least in my mind, when I think about what I could have truly hoped for, because it's easy to be down when everything's good and everything's on the up and up. But it's like what you see in those tough times, when you see who's really in the fight with you, that I think that really cements where your relationship is. If you truly got somebody that's down for you, that's loyal. And I'm not saying you should stick through anything with me, but it's really been nice to have that support and that ability to kind of figure things out, throughout this process. So with that said, I guess, I know you kind of oftentimes ask me, and I feel like for me, I guess you kind of ask me for feedback or critiques on your end as well. And to be honest,
you always like, oh, I don't have nothing to say.
I know. I mean, like, I guess, like, when I think about everything, or I think about the course of our relationship, I feel like any, like, minuscule things kind of pales in comparison. Like, and I think because you've been one primarily in our relationship that's constantly evolving, constantly seeking knowledge, constantly willing to put it out there and be on Front Street. I think while I won't say everything's been perfect, you've been able to evolve a lot faster, at a faster pace than I have. But what do you feel like, I can't name anything, but what do you feel like are some things like that you've learned, or some areas that I've challenged you, or that you've had to, I don't know, gain new perspective on?
I mean, I don't know why you like look at me that way, because I feel like I've learned so much being with you, and it hasn't always been like you actually like teaching me something as much as I've learned how to maneuver by way of the conflicts that you and I had. So I feel like even in this season, it's required me to truly, like I said in the last video, like kind of lay everything down, because whether I've always agreed with your decision making or not, I have been complicit in it. Because I feel like I saw your shortcomings and I was like, let me step up, let me be, let me do, versus giving you the space to make mistakes and do things on your own. And I feel like I said, because I played that role, I don't look at your decisions like they all on you. Like, had I given you more space to drop the ball earlier on, maybe it wouldn't have, amounted to all of this.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you would have learned earlier, because I feel like what our dynamic was is like, you would do something and it wasn't as thought out as something I would do, or it wasn't as organized, or it wasn't as whatever. And then I would either be like, okay, well, I'm going to do it moving forward. Or if I would ask you to do something and you would show any sort of hesitation, or if you didn't do it in a time frame that I thought was appropriate, I would step in and do it.
Yeah.
And I feel like whether it was right or not, it created this dynamic where it's like, it gave you the space to not act, to not do, and it put me in a space where I had to put everything on my back because I'm like, well, I don't think he's going to do it. I don't think he's going to step up. I don't think he's going to grow. I don't think he's going to evolve, which is why I said, like, I'm no saint in this. Because even though I might be like more productive, I guess, than you were, I wasn't acting as I should have in this relationship. So, like I said, I feel like in this season, it's taught me even not to put so much pressure on you because I had expectations. You know what I mean? I don't know if you felt pressure from me or if you felt just pressure in general, but I had expectations of you to like meet certain, or to hit certain milestones. And when you didn't, I did used to feel like, okay, I'm the one holding this relationship together. I'm the one that's whatever. But me even thinking that was a testament to like how immature I was. Because if me and you are in a relationship, it should never be me feeling like, yeah, I'm doing this, I'm holding this together, like I'm the one, I'm the glue, I'm the whatever, like we're a team. And God didn't put us together for me to point out your shortcomings. God put us together for me to support you. And when you've made mistakes in the past, I feel like it kind of gave me a pass to be in that space where it's like, yeah, you did drop the ball, you did put us in this position. Whether I said that to you or not, I felt that. But now it's like, yeah, that may be true. Like you might have made some decisions that put us in a certain predicament. But like I said, what do I gain by harping on that? And how does it help you to try to shame you for something that you've already done?
Yeah. No, I get that. I can vibe with everything you just said. And as you were talking, it made me kind of really just think about the fact that, ironically, I feel like where I lacked it or where I had shortcomings were a lot of your strong suits. And I felt like, although it's been a slow process, I feel like that was kind of the beauty of our relationship, was that not so much you were meant to make me a man, but just kind of, I think you were there to kind of complete this journey or this process for me, like to help or assist me in that process of like challenging me in the ways where I typically shy away, or I'm typically able, when I'm just kicking it or just with friends or just whatever, it's like, all right, I can kind of tuck this stuff away, or I don't have to get this deep or this invested with somebody enough where I have to really be exposed or show my flaws or show where I'm lacking at. And I think in the midst of us being in a relationship, it's gonna peel them layers back. It's gonna
with me for sure.
Yeah, especially with you. But I think for sure it kind of challenged me to have to really do self-reflection, really evaluate, really think about our future and what I want it to look like. And although, like I said, it's been a process, I think it's been a necessary one. And I think you were the perfect piece to that puzzle. And, as much as I'm ashamed and embarrassed or of our journey at times, I'm so hopeful for what the future has in store in this season as we rise as individuals, and then what that means and what we can do together as a couple.
And I also want to say, like, I know you say like where you were lacking, I was strong. Like this whole relationship, it was never me like, oh yeah, like you slacking in this area and you're incapable. It was like, I believe you can grow. I believe you're capable of doing this.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of the times I was trying to challenge you in ways or in areas that you believed you were weak in, but really you just hadn't had an opportunity to show what you could do. And I feel like even in this season, like our whole relationship, you've been pretty reserved. You've kind of been invulnerable, especially like mostly with other people, but even for quite some time with me, you were invulnerable. You weren't willing to open up. So for me to be able to, in this season, witness you step out of your comfort zone and not only be honest with me, but be honest with your kids, be honest with whoever watching these videos, like, and really step up. Like, what would I have to complain about? Like, how could I critique you for taking accountability when you're not required to? I feel like it's so many people, who put on this facade, or, do whatever they can to keep up with the Joneses, or to appear to have something that they don't have, or we've even seen it like on little social media stuff, like where people present as if they have a certain type of relationship, and when they fall apart, they don't really have an explanation why all the shucking and jiving they was doing online don't add up to what the actual results was. So like I said, for us to actually be in a space for real, where we have a good connection, we have good communication, we have trust, you're taking accountability, you're growing into a man of character and integrity, like, that's a blessing to me. And I don't necessarily like what it took for us to get to this space, but obviously that's what it took, because I don't know, had you not been able to kind of hold everything together, or had you continued to be able to hold everything together, I don't know if I would have ever stepped down from my role. And I don't think you would have ever put everything you was trying to juggle down if you was able to hold it together and keep up whatever facade you were trying to keep up.
No, definitely not.
So I feel like, obviously it was necessary. And even just off of the few videos that we've done, or even your video, it seemed like you got a lot of positive feedback from men who are also feeling the same way and carrying a lot of the same burdens. So maybe it was one of those situations like where, we had to go through something, and, God equipped me with whatever resilience you think I have to handle things, with grace. And he equipped you with the boldness to step out of the shadows and be honest about your struggles, and in turn help so many people.
Yeah, I mean, at least I want to hope so. At this point.
That's what's happening.
Yeah, that's where we're at, and more than anything, I do desire to help others. Like I know the ways I felt and the weight that I was carrying, and I also now have a firm understanding of the role I played in that, or where my emotional baggage played a role in that process. So, if I can share my testimony, or kind of share what's going on with me, in hopes that someone else doesn't have to have that experience, or if they're going through that experience, they can relate, or they can recognize, like, all right, this isn't unique to me. Other men are having this experience, and we can share, we can, I don't know, dialogue, politic, create, support for one another. That's ultimately what it's about. I mean, for me, although I have shortcomings, my desire has always been for us to have a solid family, for us to have a good relationship, for us to, have vulnerability, for us to raise our kids in a certain way where they have certain skills and mindsets they're equipped with. And prepping them for their relationships and their partnerships as well, and making them healthy and whole for those situations. So I think, as painful as it's been in this season, it's so much, like I said, to be thankful for. And like I said, that's something I wanted to touch on and just share, like, coming out of counseling and speaking to him. He's just like kind of like really challenged me to kind of sit back, like, hey, you listening to yourself? Like, you thinking about that? Like, do you hear what you're saying, or did you recognize it? And it's kind of like, I think we get in this process, in this mindset of just kind of glossing over things. And I think that was something I kind of recognized, but I kind of was glossing over, and I was just like, hey, take a step back and really show some thanksgiving, give some thanks to God, or, whatever, like, that you was there, you could see this now. So I don't have too much more than that. I don't know if you got anything you want to chime in on there, or
the only thing I want to say is, like, not only is this an opportunity for you to grow, but I hope that, I'll say this, it's been an opportunity for you to grow, but it's been an opportunity for me to grow as well. And I know, like I said, because I wasn't the one that, I guess, dropped the ball, it's easy for you to look at me and be like, hey, you was blameless in this situation. But I do take accountability for my role. And I also feel like, if nothing else, like, I hope that this is an example to wives who are going through difficult seasons, like with their husbands. Like, you don't have a right to disrespect him because he's disappointing you. You know, if you have chosen to make a vow to him and to be an example of Christ and his relationship with the church in your marriage, like, it's a certain way that you have to move. And I can say that, you know, I've moved a variety of ways in the past, and this way I truly am at peace. Like, I don't have any ill will towards you. Like, I'm not feeling no type of way. We don't be over here beefing, we don't be over here arguing. Like, I really don't feel no type of way. Like, it really just is what it is. And I'm thankful that God has blessed me with this much peace, because in the past I have had anxiety, especially like when we had everything, and, you know, when he was still employed, and like we really didn't want for nothing. I didn't even realize the abundance we had, because I was so focused on lack, and I was so focused on what he wasn't doing and how things wasn't going right, that I didn't even see how much we had. And now that a lot of things have been kind of stripped from us, now I can really like count the roses and smell them. Like, dang, like we have so much. Like, even in our season of, you know, lack, which I use that word lightly, like we have so much. Like, we have a connection that, you know, God willing, once money starts free flowing again, it'll probably be better than we've ever had, because I think we was trying to hold on to the little bit that we was piecing together, not even realizing like what God has for us is so much greater than, like I said, the little bit that we were trying to hold on to. So like I said, I really don't have no ill will towards you. I really don't have a desire to disrespect you. If anything, I want to be the type of woman that bring out the best in you, and that remind you of like who you are and what you're capable of and whose you are. Like, I don't desire to make you feel bad about yourself. And quite frankly, like, shame or shaming nobody is not going to make them productive. It ain't going to make them feel better about themselves. It's not going to motivate them to be better. And even if it does motivate them, it's like, is it a healthy motivation when it's rooted in, I have to prove myself? You know, I have to show this person what I'm made of. Like, I don't want to have a relationship with you where you have to prove yourself to me. I want you to be your best. I want you to be led by God. And I know, you know, as you're led by him, it'll trickle down to us, you know? So I appreciate you, you know, taking a moment to acknowledge me and what you feel like I've contributed to the relationship. But the same way you feel like I've contributed, I feel like you have too. And like I said, I've grown so much as a result. And maybe that's the beauty of, like, you know, what we have here is like, even when we were going through trials, you know, I was being sharpened through those trials. I was learning through those trials. And now I'm equipped with the peace and the understanding and the resilience to navigate what very easily could have broken somebody else.